Good morning. This is Shelby Law with the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, June 27th, 2000. Fire potential impacts for the next few days are shown here. We're still dealing with some breezy winds in the short term today and tomorrow. The winds lighten up a bit on Sunday. We're looking at gusts 20 to 30 miles an hour, maybe a little bit higher there in eastern Idaho. Relative humidities are on the lower side for Nevada and Utah, and just a bit higher over Idaho. And then we'll start to see some very isolated storms, or continue to see them anyway, in Idaho today, and then in the Uinta Basin, in the Uinta Mountains starting on Saturday, and we'll see some of those storms continuing on Sunday, and maybe a few isolated storms popping up over portions of eastern and central Nevada on Sunday as well. But these storms will be fairly quite isolated for now. Yesterday was a quiet day, sunny skies, very little thunderstorm activity just right along our northern border there in northern Idaho. Yesterday's fire activity shows 8 new fires for 37 acres and a large fire growth of just under 1,500 acres. Most of that acreage growth was coming from the Forsyth and France Canyon fires. ERCs continue to remain high over Utah and southern Nevada, where some of those values are up, pushing the 97th percentile. Further north, the values have been somewhat lower, but they have been on the increase over the past few days, and we'll continue to see all these values increasing through the weekend with warmer and drier weather coming in. Closer look at some of our ERC trends here for the Uinta Basin, where we did have about a 20-acre fire yesterday. We can see the ERCs are setting historical records for the time of year, and that's expected to remain the same for the forecast period. And then over northeast Nevada, same story. Those ERCs are currently right around the historical records. Smoke impacts for the next couple of days are shown here. Still looking at some smoke moving north and eastward from the fires in southern Utah for today and tomorrow. This morning's satellite imagery shows a general trough over the Pacific Northwest. That's what's keeping the winds in place across the Great Basin. Otherwise, high pressure to our south and east, bringing some warmer air into the southern Great Basin. So again, today, trough to the north, keeping the breezy winds in place across portions of the basin. No high risk issued for these winds as they're just below our critical thresholds. So again, the strongest winds are going to be in eastern Idaho and western Wyoming today, with generally light southwest flow elsewhere. Minimum relative humidities are in the single digits for much of Nevada and Utah, and just a little bit higher over Idaho. On Saturday, we'll start to see the ridge strengthening a bit for warming temperatures area-wide. Still some breezy winds around. No high-risk triggers for tomorrow. Again, just the breezy winds over central and eastern Idaho and western Wyoming. And then we will start to see maybe a few more isolated storms on Saturday, mainly over the Uinta Mountains, and possibly a storm or two here along the Utah and Nevada border. On Sunday, the ridge continues to strengthen for continued warming temperatures, no high risk. Max temperatures will be in the mid-90s for many of our valley locations, a little bit warmer on the west side with highs in the upper 90s near Reno. And we may see a few more isolated storms pop up on Sunday, particularly over the Uinta Basin and parts of eastern Nevada. 3-day precip totals are not really showing much at all in terms of precipitation, maybe just a little bit of a chance there in the Uinta Mountains with some storms moving in for Saturday and Sunday. On Monday should be the hottest day of the period, with valley highs reaching near 100 degrees. We have a lot of our zones turning to yellow and brown across the north as that ridge expands further north. And then we do see a little bit of moisture maybe starting to move into the Great Basin, but storms will be very isolated still on Monday, so not really looking for an increase in thunderstorm activity just yet, and no high risk. Tuesday is a better day for some of those thunderstorms to pop up. We have a couple features going on, but some southerly moisture moving into Utah for an increase in some isolated thunderstorm activity. And then this little low moving into California will also pop up some thunderstorms potentially over portions of northwest Nevada and into western Idaho. So keeping a close eye on Tuesday. The thunderstorm coverage still looks in that kind of isolated to widely scattered coverage category. So no high risk yet. As we get closer to the event, we'll take a closer look and maybe issuing some high risk here on Tuesday. On Wednesday, some of those thunderstorms will remain in the forecast, especially over Utah, with a little bit better moisture moving in there. And we do even see this far southern PSA turning to the yellow with a little bit higher relative humidities down there. On Thursday, maybe a lull in some of the thunderstorm activity with drier air, a little trough off the Pacific coast. So the 7-day totals are shown here, really not looking for much yet in the way of actual precipitation, but we do see this signal here in Utah, the higher elevations for some increasing thunderstorm activity, again, most likely beginning on Tuesday, and then also some storms moving into the central Idaho mountains as well with that little trough to the north. The extended forecast for July 4th through the 10th still puts above normal temperatures in place across the northern Great Basin and above normal chances for precipitation. The bulk of the deepest moisture will be over Arizona, but continued thunderstorm activity for much of the Great Basin. That concludes today's briefing. Please check back tomorrow for the latest updates.